And we are coming at y'all live, ladies and gentlemen, as I do set things up over here. We got a fantastic show for you, and who's joining me is Domo Ducks, ladies and gentlemen. We do appreciate everybody joining us. Do share this, because we got a nice hot take over here on a particular topic that I know a lot of you guys are interested in, and that is runes really that much better than BRC20 tokens? These are the type of things we're going to be asking today, and we're going to have a discussion. It's going to be a dialogue here with myself and Domo Ducks. Normally I'm sitting here alone as a monologue. Thought I'll bring a different dynamic here and ask somebody who's been in the space when it comes to tokens on Bitcoin since the beginning, like Domo Ducks, who knows what he's saying. So Domo Ducks, thank you so much for joining me here on my live streams, bro.
Yeah, it's an honor, man. Glad to be here.
Good stuff, good stuff. I want to make this known to you guys. If you look at the ticker below right here, I do have an official debate with a Runes fanboy who goes by the name of Shizzy, which is fine. But do be prepared for that next week if you want to see him get wrecked, if you want to get entertained and also learn at the same time. Do check us out next week, Thursday at 11 a.m., August 8th, on the Ordinal's Revolution show. That's where you could see me just absolute massacre Shizzy. I will actually, as a matter of fact, not only would I massacre him, I will undress his argument one button at a time and hand him his underwear. It's like I'm going to expose him. So you don't want to miss that. So this is pretty much the lead up to this, this debate here, Domo Ducks. And I think we could probably go ahead with the first question as people roll in. Let me just double check, make sure that we are live on both platforms, on YouTube and also on Twitter. Okay, so do share this, everybody. It's going to be a very fascinating discussion here. We got some questions here. If you guys got questions, you could also partake in the Twitter live chat. Click the description. There's a chat over there. Anybody could say what they want. It's open to every single one of y'all. So we'd love to know what you guys want to say too. Okay, Domo Ducks. So I might call you Domo by accident, but that is a compliment, okay?
No, yeah, people do that. I love it.
So let's go like this. I'm going to bring up this question here. All right, this is the first one here. This is the most common question, right? So which is better, runes or BRC20 tokens? And I'll let you go ahead and answer that, or tell me what you think about that question.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons in anything. I would start by looking at the history of just the ordinal space in general. What brought me here was BRC20s. I think that's what brought the majority of the people here. We were talking before the show about the UTXO set. And I mean, the charts don't lie. You can see the date that ordinals began. The UTXO set, that's basically just how many UTXOs exist that constitute set. So the collective UTXOs present in the blockchain, that's the set. So, but basically it was more or less flat until you have BRC20s coming on the scene. And then the moment that Ordi broke out on April 21st, the UTXO set went parabolic. So basically all of the volume, the vast majority of the volume and financial activity which has taken place in the ordinal space has been on BRC20s. I mean, that's just a fact. You can't deny that. You can see where runes launched, and it didn't extend the trajectory didn't really change. It's the trajectory that started with BRC20s. So, I mean, we'll see what happens when the real bull kicks in. But as of this point, I'm going to say first is first. Yeah. I mean, you have the first fungible, or I would say non-fungible. Well, no, fungible token standard on Bitcoin. You can't replicate that. It was at a time whenever there was no certainty that it was even possible to create fungibility on Bitcoin. So, similar to what they call the Immaculate Conception with Bitcoin, where the circumstances surrounding its creation could never be replicated. I would say the same thing is true with BRC20s. So, that's one way of looking at it. Also, another benefit, I would say, of BRC20s over runes would be you have 4 and 5 byte tickers as opposed to these massive monstrosities that we're dealing with. And they're all in Western characters, which the Chinese community is not a fan of. They can't, they have difficulty following it, and it's easy for them to get scammed. And I don't think you're going to see much traction there. So, yeah, it's, I mean, I don't know, that's, I also, honestly, I see a number of red flags. I saw that early around the runes protocol. It seemed like a lot of the big boys missed some of the gains.
Oh, we get into the real meat and potatoes real fast right here. But that is the truth. That is the truth. Sorry, go on. I can't wait to jump in.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't really want to put out names and stuff, but I mentioned it publicly on X that I don't plan to build on runes. This was significantly before it launched. And I'm happy that that's the decision that I made, but who knows? The future is open. Maybe they're able to fix some things, and maybe they're able to implement smart contracts like BRC20 2.0 will, and we'll see what happens. But I've placed my bets, and I'm pretty content with where I'm at.
Lovely answer. Thank you for saying that. And I would just say this. I think when people ask, is runes better than BRC20 tokens? I think that's the wrong question to ask. The question should be, did runes make a difference with trading tokens when it comes to trading tokens on Bitcoin? And it didn't, right? That's the real question. Did it make a difference? Now, I think, we could get into the transfer inscription, which is one of the questions later on. But I feel as though if we're still here sitting, trading tokens on Bitcoin as if it's NFTs, right? Listing them in a marketplace and forcing buyers to buy what I want to list, nothing was changed. It was a band-aid on it, right? And it didn't fix much because the real framework itself is what needs changing. And I think that's where Fractal Bitcoin comes into play, which is a question later down the line. So the real question should be, did runes change anything? Now, I have to say this too, right, Domo Ducks? Like, I said this with, I was on Shizzy's show last week. And once again, if you're now joining, I will be debating him live next week on this very topic. But, one of his things was the transfer inscriptions, right? They always come to transfer inscriptions. But the transfer inscriptions is not the problem here, right? And we've actually fixed this with sathunter.com, where you don't need to wait for a transfer inscription to arrive to issue tokens, right? Or even to send it to another wallet. We've done that. If you go over to sathunter.com, you'll see this. And we'll get to that shortly. But I feel as though, there's not much action happening with runes because of that lack of liquidity pool trading. So nothing really was addressed, right? The reason why we were on a halt is because these Chinese guys, they didn't like that. I personally didn't like it either. It was weird. So if we want to get this adoption, we can't create another thing called runes or prunes or whatever, dunes, whatever you want to call it, and have it as a repackaged version of what already exists. Right? So that's the biggest pitfall there for me. It didn't change anything. It didn't allow much. You can see, well, the transfer inscriptions, they fixed that. That wasn't the problem. The problem was the lack of DeFi trading. The problem obviously was, you can't do anything about the one, megabyte or whatever it is, room of, per block. Miners got to vote for that stuff. So you got to come up with a whole different framework. You can't come up with a different standard and expect it's going to fix something, put a band-aid on a wound and think it's going to heal. It's just not. Just a temporary fix. So, and this is not even a temporary fix. The experience is the same, right? It's like, fuck, I got a list, I got to win. Hey, somebody wants to buy tokens? No, it's not what I want. They can't go in and out like a liquidity pool. So that's the major issue here. And this is where, runes fail to meet that criteria. Now, to your point, these long-ass tickers, bro, people are getting scammed with that shit too. This is another reason why, I don't know why these tickers are so damn long. People are getting scammed. They were, others, these scammers are replacing characters, making it look like the same ticker. They're buying the wrong shit. So that's a big turnoff, right? A lot of people will say, well, we're on centralized exchanges. So we're going backwards now? In order to trade this in a good way, we got to go to centralized exchanges? No, we need decentralized, like trading here when it comes to tokens on Bitcoin, just like how every other blockchain does it. If it's different to those other blockchains, there's no way we're going to reinvent the wheel and expect the rest of the masses in crypto to come to adopt tokens on Bitcoin. So my take here, Domo Ducks, is based off of logic, right? It's based off of like, again, and I want to say this, I said this on his show. I really do, like, I may look like a BRC20 fanboy. I am not a fanboy to any one particular thing. I don't pledge allegiance to one standard, one token, one tech, right? I feel as though if something else is actually better and it solves that problem, the underlying problems, I will be the first to adopt that new implementation or standard, right? But it doesn't exist. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like if things are so much different, you know what I mean? Let's have a come to Jesus moment and hip hip hooray. It don't, like, I can't do that. I can't lie to myself. I can't lie to people. The experience is horrible still. So until something comes and fixes that, then we could probably say, yeah, like, until Runes fixes that, then yeah, sure, Runes may be better, right? If that's the question you want to ask. But if you're talking about, like, you know, we got some people trying to be very creative, and I respect that. I respect innovation, and I'm talking about the programmable Runes guys. I believe his name is Michael or Mikal. And, you know, people are like, oh, well, look, Runes could do this. No, that took a skillful, a skillful, smart individual to come up with a third-party app to go on top of this framework. The framework itself, Runes, needed to already have those functions and capabilities for people to deploy. It does, right? So that's totally different. It's not like if Runes made this, somebody made it, and they choose it to be on top of Runes to implement this sort of, functions. So that's where I stand with this whole Runes BRC. What's better? Well, none changed. So I can't say it's better, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I stand with that. And look, if you guys want to ask any questions, please, I could drop the link. Just DM me. You could come on. You could ask your question. You could give your take. It's all good. DMs are open, guys. So that brings me to my next question that I got here. Sorry, I got it right there. We got here devs on Runes. There is a rumor, Domodux, that there are some devs on Runes. Now, I want to know, why would these devs choose Runes? Right? This is like another question that's out there. For example, our good old friend over at Ordinal's Revolution, I do mean that he is my good friend, Jizzy, but friend or foe, I gotta set the record straight and wreck your ass. I just gotta do it. But, this is one of the things that people will ask. They say, oh, well, the devs are building there. And one of the examples I bring up here, Domodux, is Liquidium. Why would Liquidium choose Runes and not choose BRC20s? He's talking about transfer inscriptions are a problem, but I would love to hear from you.
Well, Runes is the shiny new object right now. I mean, it makes sense to build where people are focused. But as far as investing, you really don't want to follow the crowd, So the builders, they have a slightly different mindset than investors, right? They have to deal with where the people are at, and investors kind of have to skate to where the puck is going. So there's also a lot of devs working on BRC20 2.0. There's a lot of indexers working on it, and smart. And they're taking their time. They want to do it right. I'm excited about the possibility of Fractal Bitcoin coming out in about a month. I think that'll be a huge jumpstart. In the interim, until we actually get the 2.0 upgrade, probably later this year. But I mean, you'd really, as an investor, that you would take that into consideration for sure. But that's not the only thing you want to look at.
Absolutely, and like you said, that's the shiny thing right now. That's the hot thing right now. That's the thing that was driven down your throats. That was the thing that everybody was talking about. That's why, last year was about AI. Year before that was about metaverse. This year, now the trend is fucking tokens on Bitcoin. BRC20, Runes. What's hot in right now is what people are going to jump on, right? They're not that they think it's better. Well, it's what's being spoken of. You know what I mean? What's the hype? What's the trend? Maybe next week will be something else. But right now, it might be Runes. So this is why these guys are choosing Runes. Trust me, there's nothing special about it. And if you really want to talk about Liquidium, right, here's another angle I got for y'all. Well, Liquidium, if I'm not mistaken, somebody do fact check this, but I'm pretty sure Liquidium was incubated by BT Startup Labs and Albert and those guys. And Albert's doing great work, by the way. Now, who's also affiliated with BTC Startup Labs? Trevor.btc. I call him Trevor.vc. He ain't no Trevor.btc. He's Trevor.vc, right? So right. Trevor.vc is highly affiliated with them. As a matter of fact, before he wanted to become an influencer first and not an investor, because that's what he wants to do. He wants to become an influencer. He was on that panel of Startup BTC, and they have something called what's it called? The BTC Start Accelerator Program. right? It's pretty much where they incubate. He was on their website. He's a big part of that. And I do respect Albert a lot, by the way. Good work you're doing over there, Albert. But that is now something that is it's like beneficial for them, right? It's a conflict of interest if they don't. And Runes, Trevor, Leonidas, Liquidium coming out of there. Of course they're going to choose Runes, right? They're incubated from the guys who are part of it, full blown. So that's what I will say about Liquidium, right? Choosing Runes. This has nothing to do with all this gibberish about transfer inscriptions, etc., etc. And that's another question that's going to come up that I'm going to, pretty much show you guys what we've did, over at sathunter.com. And I'm not even a developer at heart. I just have an imagination, some idea, a little bit of money, and I asked if it's possible, and we made it happen. So I hate it when people say transfer inscription is the problem, when I fixed it. I literally fixed it. Literally, you don't need transfer inscriptions to move tokens around, or you don't need to wait for it, right? Wait for a transfer inscription to arrive to then issue token balance. We've literally done that in the same block. It works just like Runes right now. It works just like SRC20. It works just like fucking Atomicals, right? And I'll show you guys when we get to that point. So I don't know if you want to add anything else about devs launching on Runes. It's almost like they could create this mechanism, this technology, this protocol, and just choose whatever token wants to represent their value. It could be anything with Runes or BRC. It has nothing to do with the standards technology, because that token that resides on BRC20 standard, Runes, SRC, you could just choose anything you want to represent your value or your project. They choose Runes. Why? Well, fuck, everybody's talking about Runes. But it doesn't matter. If everybody was to go on the Titanic and then fucking say, all right, guys, see you guys, we're going to be good forever, and it's sunk. I mean, you know what I mean? I ain't going to follow everybody. If everybody wants to jump off a cliff, I'm not going to go do that, right? If everybody wants to go into Runes and get wrecked, I'm not going to do that either. I'm going to remain profitable. See what I'm saying? So I don't care what everybody is doing. But from a marketing standpoint, from a product development standpoint, you want to go where the traffic is, okay? And if you want to add something, you can let me know. But we could go into our next question, which is pretty much about traffic and volume.
Right. Yeah, no, I think you did a really good job laying it out there. And the programmability aspect, I think, is also huge. Because BRC20s, they kind of float above Bitcoin. Domo has talked about, Lorenzo has talked about that, and it's almost like a concept similar to like maybe the Lightning or something, where you can send enormous transactions in just one transfer inscription, large sums. And so, and it's not necessarily on chain, it's like floating above. So it's kind of like the analogy of oil, natural gas, becomes a liquid when you store it, and then it's a solid wherever you transmit it and everything. So there are benefits to that. And even Bob Bodley has talked about, you think Runes are more expressive and have more programmability than BRC20s. It's no contest. He's written extensively about that. So
has he? Okay, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we just have to wait and see. The Layer 1 Foundation and all of the indexers, they're taking their time. They want to do it right.
Yeah.
We'll see how well that works out. But yeah, I if that all comes together, then it's just hyper bullish for the programmability aspect that you're just not going to be able to do on Runes, at least not in the same way. It's going to be very tricky. So but yeah, I don't know. I think you pretty much nailed it.
I would just we have about 232 people watching us on Twitter, and we got a smaller crowd on YouTube. So I would say this: when NFT nerds become token gurus, this is the effect you get. This is the result you get. The people who are speaking about this the most doesn't have much, if any, experience on tokens, right? Which is Leonidas and such. Okay? I just found it was strange that one day he woke up and he wanted to be a big token guy when he publicly expressed his sentiment multiple times that he doesn't, it's a lot of scams involved in tokens, a lot of pump and dumps. He didn't want his name attached to any charts. So in other words, he was too pussy to risk his reputation on things he may believe in. Right? So that's why you don't want to get into tokens, because you don't want to be, being ridiculed for pump and dumping or getting people into bullshit coins. So I just want to know what was his change of heart all of a sudden after, pretty much fading BRC20s, and we could talk about Bitmap, and then all of a sudden he wants, tokens to the moon now. I want to be a token guy, although I said they're pump and dump, and I don't want to be involved with that. I just want to know. And I feel as though when you ask these legitimate, questions, or the wrong questions and it's against the status quo, and people who are bias holding bags, when you're doing honest investigation, you know, they wanna attack your reputation. But anybody who knows me, I just ask the real shit. I don't come across jumping on bandwagons, right? And you know, formulating those thoughts with others if it doesn't make sense to me, and that's why I'm, you know, able to remain profitable. You know, and we could even talk about things a little bit slightly here, which is dog, and that was a great assessment I made on day one. And you know, right now the graphs don't lie, and the way I put it down there was exactly what went down with dog. I said, hey, you got the airdrop, great for you. That's your nice, you know, exit liquidity. But believe you me, the people buying into this thing will be wrecked. So, you know, we could talk about the high market cap that it launched at. And,
right.
And this is off of logic. This is not me making it up. I mean, you know, so literally that's what the graph's showing. That's what the logic says. And sure enough, time will tell. And I always say it like this, right, Domo Ducks? And we got Block in the chat. How's it going, Block? Like, this game is about, like, the best way to put it is it's an objective scoreboard. You know, it really is. Mm-hmm. You could say this, you could say that, but if you look at the scoreboard, people are losing badly right now with runes. But let's get to the next question here before we go a little bit crazy, which is the runes volume, Domo Ducks. Like, does runes have more volume than BRC20 tokens? People are claiming runes has volume, runes has this. I would love to hear your take on this particular topic here.
Have you been tracing it? Like, have you actually been analyzing the two right now? I mean, there's not a lot of volume anywhere, honestly. You know,
dude, I have my way to track it, and I'll share that after you're done. But if you want, we could compare this to Ordi. I do have a little chart here. Do you want to bring up that chart now, or?
Yeah, I'd like to see it because I really haven't been comparing the two technically. You know. Oh, okay, sure, right. Yeah, well, again, that's more or less what I was talking about earlier on, where you can actually see the UTXO set, and I mean, I basically just described it. I don't know if you can read it, but you can see. I don't really have where runes came in there, but it's toward the end. Yeah, and I mean, we have the same trajectory, so. I mean, from that point of view, we see what created the volume. I mean, you were talking about the contrast between NFT communities and now, you know, they're pumping tokens, right? And so I can just say, you know, what brought me over here was BRC20s. I didn't come because of the art, you know. Yeah. I think art's great. I consider myself an artist and a creative person. But that's not what brought me here. You know, it was all of the volume from the BRC20s. You know, you had people like even the BSV community noticed it. You know, everybody noticed it. Binance noticed it. So I'm more a token guy at heart. I like the idea of using art and maybe adding utility to it. You know, like with Unisat and things like that. But
I agree. I agree with you. Hold on, I'm trying something on the fly. Don't mind me. Go ahead. Yeah.
What were you talking about? It's just you know, NFTs, the way that they work is just slightly different than fungibles and non-fungibles. You know, it's slightly different. You know, like art is great and it can store value, but it's not as liquid. It's like trying to sell a house. You know, it takes a few months, or try to sell a nice painting or something. It can store liquidity. It can be a good investment, but it's not the same, type of volume. It's not the same type of experience, and just economically as an actual token. So if you're really accustomed to one and then you try to jump into the other, you may have to. There might be a little bit of a learning curve, to be able to distinguish how the two work. So yeah, that might be one reason why some of the people who have been into NFTs primarily, and then they're moving into the token realm, they're not seeing the data like you're laying it out, so.
Yeah, 100%.
But you can learn, you can learn, and not just hold on to hopium.
Yeah, exactly. So I am having some technical difficulties. I want to share my screen for a second here, but I'm sure you can take my word for it. I would say this, when it comes to the volume, like what you said, I think if runes truly had volume, okay, Domodux and the people who are watching us right now, we've already would have had a token from runes listed on Binance, okay? So that shows it doesn't have much fucking volume. Also, it already would be on Binance right now, okay? Furthermore, if we go to the SAT VB in the mempool, that's a great way to see if the demand is there. Because what is volume? Volume is truly a measurement of demand, right?
Yep.
And right now, the SAT-VB is at 4.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, you can't get any more dead than that. When BRC20 tokens were being minted, the average SAT-VB was 320 to 350. Okay? That means people were FOMOing. It was bullish. There's always a new hot mint being minted, etc., etc. Runes cannot say that. So this whole volume, I really don't know what you guys are talking about. Now, if you're comparing the volume from with BRCs to this, you're missing a big picture here because you're not including, your assessment is inaccurate because you're using insufficient data charts that started 3 months, 2.5 to 3 months after the growth of BRC20 tokens, right? So I see a lot of people showing different graphs, and these graphs are starting sometime like 2 months after it went live, which is in January, February, March. Went live in March. They're showing graphs like in January, February, March, April, May-ish, June-ish, something like that. And then, oh, look at the same trajectory. But what happened to all the things that happened before that? You know, and if you want to talk about the whole gains and all that, you know, that's our next question. But I feel as though that's a great way to measure it. It's not what's on Magic Eden. And like, if I look at Magic Eden right now, when I zoom out, you know, everything's down by like 50%, 80%, all kinds of shit on the 30-day chart. But, you know, the trading volume right here for Dog is 13 million. Okay, cool. Right? And that's great trading. That's in 30 days, my bad. You know, so I could probably gauge this by 24 hours right there. And that's 581,000 for Dog right now. Everything else is like 5K, 12K, this K, that K. We got 73K there. So essentially, Dog literally makes up for over 50% of the trading on one standard of all the tokens combined. It makes up for about 50% or more of the trading. That is atrocious. That is garbage. With other standards like BRC, even CBRC, cerebral palsy we used to call it. Everybody used to get cerebral palsy for that shit. To go crazy and mint it. But for CBRC, even it was equal across the board, where it wasn't just like dominant from one or two tokens. It was just pure FOMO. Go mint this, go get this, trade this. But it's only for one token here. So that's an epic fail. There's like, you're misleading people by saying there's more volume here when there isn't for one because of the mempool. It's at fucking 4 SAT-VB. If they had so much volume, trust me, Binance would list it. They want those fees. But Binance, like, that's some Mickey Mouse bullshit. But, you know, Ordi's already there. I think Sats was listed at one point. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Yep.
But, right?
Yep.
So it's like, what are we really talking about here, right? So
did you say that Dog is 50% of the runes volume?
It's like, I'm eyeballing
Roughly.
it. I'm eyeballing it,
Right.
but it's probably even more. It's probably even more.
Right.
So, right, if you
Wow.
look at the 24-hour chart, right, according to Magic Eden, right now we have, I wish I could bring this up. I don't know what's going on with my computer, but we have Magic Eden shows us 24 hours trading for Dog. It's $580,000 or 9.2 Bitcoin. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one is BAMP, which is $13,000 for the day.
Right.
Okay, and then we have RSIC, which is 72,000. Right. So 12, that's a big one. Then it goes to 10. Then it goes to, what's that? $25 fucking dollars. Oh no, sorry.
Right.
Is that what is that? That's $25, $10? Yeah, something fucking small. Yeah, $10, $25, 0, 50. Well, 59,000 for this one here, etc. So even if it's 40, you know, it could be 40%. I mean, I would love to do the math on that, but it takes the
Right.
majority of the trading volume by a landslide. Is my point. Whether that's 50,
Right.
40, 60, whatever, around that, you know, that window there, that is atrocious, right?
It's interesting too because Dog has a kind of some uncertainty around the details surrounding the drop, you know, the runestone airdrop. There's always going to be questions about that because, you know, was there inscription seeding of numerous wallets prior to the release? We don't know, you know, but whereas with Ordi, you have everything on chain. You have this wallet minted, this wallet minted. You can actually look at what wallets minted. And it was extremely fair. I mean, it was. I haven't actually parsed it, but you can see it's very many unique wallets minted Ordi. You know, it wasn't all consolidated by one person, and it wasn't hyped. There was no hype, so people didn't even know. First of all, a lot of people didn't know how to do it, but people were like, well, yeah, I'll try this. You know, I'll give it a shot. You know, and so it got a very good fair type of distribution, that there, you don't have any of these lagging questions. I wonder what happened behind the scenes there, so yeah, and the token that's taking 50% of the volume, I don't know how it could ever shake those doubts. I don't know how it's possible, so.
As I said, man, it was an elaborate scheme. It was, okay, for these influencers to come together, collude with miners, get the top fucking 10, get the top 5. If it's so fair, what do you do? What's your famous ass doing at the top 3 of Runes tokens with Dog? If it's so fair. Oh, what the fuck is what's it called? Decentralized, whatever they wanted to call themselves? Those Donkey Kong guys? What the fuck are they doing number 1 or 2? How are famous brands and influencers getting in the top fucking 10 if it's so fair? The beautiful thing about BRC20 is it's on chain. You need to go mint it on chain. Everybody sees and you're limited to 1,000 out of like 21 million tokens. This, you'll be like, oh, well, I'll trust the guy to airdrop it to the right groups. We don't do trust here, brother. That's not how this game works, okay? So, all that shit, people like to put likability over logic too, so that's where they could get lost on. I think if you're gonna, just because you like someone and you trust them, like everybody liked and trust Sam Bankman-Fried, oh, I don't care about money. Like Leonidas, I don't care about money. I don't care about money. Oh, yeah, I don't care.
That. I read that. Brother, he said it.
It's like, brother, you sound just like Sam Bankman-Fried right now. Shut the fuck up. At least me. Sorry, I'll finish my point here. Sorry, I talk too much. But at least with me, I'll go buy a fucking Benz and I'll show you. I don't value money. I don't hoard money. I'll spend it on dumb shit. You know what I mean? So you gotta be careful. That motherfucker was telling you he don't care about money. Last time we heard that on crypto, Sam Bankman-Fried fucking shit the bed sheets. Go ahead.
Right. No, I read that. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's an interesting statement. I mean, I can understand, you want to value community and that type of stuff, but I would word it a little differently. I mean, if you don't care about money, I mean, you're in the wrong area, and you're like a saint. You're like one out of just a handful of people on Earth. So I mean, let's just be real. We care about money. It's important, but we don't want to manipulate people. We don't want to try to manipulate the market. I would say something like that. But and even
I think if he didn't care about money, he'll be like a manager at World Vision, helping children get adopted and all this fucking shit.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? You wouldn't be in crypto, brother. Because crypto is literally a money game. It's the money game. That's crypto. It's programmable money, right? So I just don't get it. If you're not into money, you're not like, what the fuck you doing here? Don't say the tech, because you'll be working for some fucking Web 2 company a long time ago. Okay, so I don't buy into all that bullshit. So something suspicious there. So yeah, let's talk about gains, because if we ain't talking about gains, I don't know what we're talking about. I don't like to waste people's time, because you know what I'm saying? It is about, it has something to do with some money here. It has everything to do with gains, bro. Why are we talking about dog to a billion? Why are we talking about fucking 100x? Because you're in that money. You're into that money, okay? So let's talk about the Runes token gains here. What is the most gains from any Runes tokens? I mean, bro, if I gotta sit here in front of this camera and think about it, there ain't that much to talk about. But please, I don't know, maybe you know something that I don't. What Runes token? Yeah.
I mean, again, BAMP's the only one that comes to mind that you get, around 100x. Have there been others? Right.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of any.
Yeah.
There may have been some decent pumps, but nothing, nothing anywhere close to what you see with BRC20s. 30,000x and so forth.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's no comparison whatsoever. So
you can't compare it. You can't.
Right.
I think if go ahead.
Well, some people will say, well, this was an airdrop. I've seen that. I got this for free, so it's but still, okay, so you got this free airdrop. Maybe you got a few of them, and maybe you made a little bit off of it, but you're not a millionaire, are you? So whereas you could spend maybe $100 on Ordi early on and 30,000x that, the potentiality, I mean, I made a lot on Ordi. I don't know if I want to talk about figures, but I averaged in at $7, and I put a lot in because I saw it go from basically less than a penny.
Yeah.
But
Domo Ducks, you're lying. You're lying because the charge doesn't say that.
Right. Well, you have to, you don't see it where it's listed. You have to go, like the charts the data that I was pulling from was BRC20.io at the time, right? You actually had to go in there and do some research and compare figures. It wasn't all laid out ABC 1, 2, 3 for you.
These were the good old days where you had to earn what you keep, right? You had to go fucking kill it and then eat it. And if you're not eating it, you're not killing it. You have to put in a little bit of work. You're not waiting for an airdrop, $6,000 on my lap, and learn nothing from it, and then blow that money and then be broke again. You actually have to develop skills to a certain degree. You know what I mean? And do some research. Not, oh, fuck, well, he says that. Dog's going to the moon. Let me buy into that and get wrecked. It didn't work like that. People are lazy. So, yeah, I feel you on that front.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the initial pump from basically, it was almost a 10,000x. I saw it go from less than a penny to just under $30, $29.50, and I'm like, okay, this is like paradigm shifting, and this is the first fungible token standard developed on Bitcoin. This isn't off on Ethereum, so this is some random altcoin. So I knew instantly this is a black swan. This is something that you couldn't have predicted. You can't repeat it. And I'm going to start averaging in, and again, I was able to average in a large amount. I had complete conviction. I started probably buying at around $11, after it fell, and averaged in at around 7. So, and did really well with it. Sold right in November. Yeah. And again, people talk about bag bias. I sold all of my ordi in November, except for what I have in Unisat's BRC20 swap for the Domodux community. We have a Quack ordi pool. It's the second largest TVL on Unisat. We're going to move it over to Fractal, and we're going to be one of the first to offer yield farming. But I sold all of my ordi. I sold all of my sats in November.
Yeah.
When it was around 150 sats per VB. So, and then around the halving, when runes, everybody was distracted by that, I started buying back into ordi.
Yeah.
So I have a lot more than I had before, and the same degree of conviction. So
you see, with me, Domodux, why I may hold more bags than the average person, but still speak the truth about something, whether it's hard, easy, or in between, is because even if I own my bags, and as much as I want to scream on Twitter about how good it is, as much as I want to get together with others in the community, lock arms, and we all do this like mantra of to the moon shit, that's not going to ultimately make the token go up. What is great token economics, utility, and community does matter, but it's not the driving force of the success of it, okay? Go ask Board Up Yacht Club, go ask all these other fucking dumb idiots out there, right? They're wrecked. So, community is not everything. Yes, it's somewhat important, but those first two things comes first. So no matter how much I want to scream my community members that it's going to do great, you're just unhinged. You need to look at it logically, right, from a logic standpoint, and see, what's the market cap, what's if it's vested periods, et cetera, right. Circulating, what can make it grow more, what's the utility use case, all these things. I'm a utility guy. I'm not saying everything needs utility. I get it. Memes are great, whatever, and that's cool. I'm okay with that. But I feel as though, there's only an exception to one, really, right, which is Dogecoin and maybe a couple that really made it big. And everybody wants to try to mimic that. And I feel as though they don't have an understanding of token economics. That's all. So,
right.
And
like the U.S. makes it, I'm just saying that the U.S. makes it hard for you to create utility because they want to put you in prison. You almost have to start it as a meme and then get it decentralized, and then you can add some utility. But I'm all about utility as well.
I mean, like, if you look at it from the standpoint of like the whole BRC's on-chain minted, fair distribution, they can't really do much there. I mean, hey, I'm not a lawyer though, but I'm just saying from my understanding.
Right, for sure.
Also, what I would like to say is about the airdrop. That's fine. Nobody's discrediting or discounting the fact of the airdrop, and that's money, and it's a nice airdrop. $4,000, $5,000, $3,000, $6,000, depending when you sold it. If you didn't sell, it kind of wrecked in the sense of what you could have sold for, double or triple the price. But there's no metric that tracks airdrops on CoinGecko or on CoinMarketCap. It doesn't exist. So when people talk about, this amount of gains, no, you got a freebie, you got a handout, you got something for free. There's no such thing as extras on that. Because to get a return on investment, you need to actually risk something. So you cannot calculate that. So when people talk about, it's win-win, For you, maybe if you got the airdrop, which I said in my dog price prediction, unbiased logical analysis, I've stated this, but if you're buying in, you might want to reconsider because you're probably going to get wrecked. It just didn't add up to me. And lo and behold, 3 months later, a little bit more than that, 3.5 months, I think by now, almost 4 months, it's, you know, it's exactly the way I thought it was going to be, literally. So, and if people still are upset with you for being objectively correct, they are the problem, right? Because it's one thing, right? It's one thing if you're saying these crazy things and you don't agree with it because even if you're biased, but if the results come out to be exactly what that person was being objective with, right? And that's what is exactly what happened, and you're still, you know, saying the same things, it's like you lost your credibility then, right? Because you're not about reality, right? And if you're lying to yourself, you're going to lose money all the time.
Yeah, with the whole airdrop argument, I think it's kind of a moot point. It's a bit pedantic. I mean, so okay, you got an airdrop and you made what, $5,000 maybe? Maybe you got a bunch of airdrops. Maybe you fit the criteria. Maybe you made 20,000. Still, I would rather with Ordi put in 100 and make 3 million, you know, than get a free $20,000. I'll risk.
But guess what? But guess what? When you make that money, you don't give a fuck about airdrops.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
But I'm literally, if you would have minted with $100 and you would have held, you could have 3 million. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously it's unlikely that you would hold, but you could still do pretty well, you know? So
once again, thank you for saying that. Cause Shizzy was like, oh, well, Ordi, even if you minted it, it only created like 10 millionaires and they had to put like $10,000 each.
Not true. That's not true. You can go to the data and see again. It was many wallets that minted. I mean, it's all right there on chain. I could parse it for you and lay it out. And again, there was no hype, so it's unlikely that it's the same person creating tons of wallets. And you know, they would just mint multiple times on a wallet. So there was no hype. There was no understanding that this would actually succeed. Domo said, "Don't even waste money on it. It's probably not going to work."
Yeah, and then,
you know,
the opposite happens, right?
Yeah. So you can't compare the two. And again, you can look on the data and see that tons of wallets minted Ordi. It's not 10 people. So.
Yeah, tons of wallet minted it, bro. The funny thing was, I remember I was in my research room upstairs. This is the studio. Got this big ass curved screen, right? So I just get immersed into my fucking, you know, in my research. And during the time, bro, literally Ordi was being minted, and I saw this tweet about it or something. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, holy shit. They did the .sats, right? Remember the .sats domains? Mm-hmm. And then they came with the BRC20 tokens. I was like, bro, I was asking Thomas, my colleague, I was like, bro, how the hell do we do this? What are these lines? You know, what do I got to put here? I tried to do it. It was wrong. Fucking thing got minted out. Then, yeah, bro, it's a true story. So I've never minted Ordi. However, I did buy it in Discord chat, and there was like just under 5 cents, like 4.5 cents or so.
Yeah, that's legend, man. Legend.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, the proof is there, right? I mean, I've showed this video in the last live stream I did on Twitter where I was showing people it had no price attached to it on BRC-20.io. That was like the coin market cap for BRC20 tokens. Then all of a sudden it had market cap, it had prices, and then it went from that to 9 cents, then from that to like something to then $1, then to like 20, and then retraced, and then went parabolic. So that's where, like, from when it retraced before it went really parabolic, that's when the charts come in, the mainstream charts. And this is where people like Shizzy is either spreading disinformation or just wasn't there, and maybe it's both, or thirdly, he's unaware of this, right? About
that's weird. I mean, that's just I'm not trying to be rude, but that's just ignorance, you know.
Yeah.
To try to say that you're trying to misrepresent what happened. I mean, it's obviously there. All you have to do is look at it. Yeah, you don't look at one chart on, you know, TradeView and just assume that that's the entire history. You know, you have to do a little bit more digging.
Exactly. I agree. So when it comes to gains, there's no comparing, right? BRC20 tokens already did over 20,000x from the mint. If you bought it in the first secondary market price, which was 0.9 cents, you're still up a shit ton. Even if you were to mint Ordi, okay, this is how sustainable it was. Even if you were to mint Ordi last year, something happened, God forbid you got in a car accident, fell into a coma, knock on wood, hope that happens to nobody, and you woke up today, you're still at some next level gains, okay? Like 10,000x gains. 10,000x. 0.003 divided by the price right now. How much is that? It's over 10,000.
Yeah, they don't come around every day.
So that was literally, when I say generational gains, that was literally it. And people see I use that term loosely.
some charts actually show already going up to 9650, basically 9648. So there's some, on some exchanges it went up even higher than the 80 figure, 80 whatever.
Absolutely.
So
that brings us to our next question. The good old, oh man, my computer's not working. I wanted to show you guys how we fix this. Literally, I'm not a dev. But just let me know. What's your take on this? The entire transfer inscription, is that the problem here? Not for BRC20s, but for tokens on Bitcoin as a whole. Like user experience, right? And everything else that comes with that. I'd love to hear your take.
Right. Well, Domo has talked about, if you go into the Layer 1 Foundation forum, there's been some discussion about this. And, they believe they could actually eliminate transfer inscription Layer 1 for BRC20s if they wanted to. It's not a huge priority for Domo. He doesn't see that it's all that big of a deal. I know a lot of people complain about it. There's pros and cons with that. It allows it to kind of, again, the value, your holdings are actually kind of floating above Bitcoin. It's not actually tagged on chain. And so that allows you to just pull out a certain amount, transfer that, and you can again, it's similar to Lightning. Lorenzo's done talks on it. I couldn't really go into a lot of depth. But there are actually benefits to that as well. So, but ultimately, if enough people wanted it, it does seem like it is actually possible to Layer 1 eliminate that altogether. And I know that you have a solution with Sat Hunters, where you're I believe inscribing the transfer at the moment that you're purchasing the asset. I'm not quite sure, the technicals of what you're doing there. So there are workarounds as well. But and also with what Unisat and Fractal Bitcoin are doing with their Fractal swap. It's a layer, right? But it's with the block duration, on Bitcoin, where it's it can take from 10 minutes to 30 minutes or longer. The Fractal Bitcoin, where you're having blocks every, 30 seconds, I believe it is, so, or less. So I think a lot of it's going to move over there, at least initially, but ultimately, if we want Layer 1 to eliminate the transfer inscriptions, it does seem like that's possible anyway. So, that could be resolved if it's really as big of a deal as everybody's saying. But even with runes, yes, you can send them directly from your wallet. But if you're going to list them anywhere, you have to split it up, so it's it's similar to a transfer inscription. So
yeah, no,
again,
go ahead.
Oh, just even it's like Ordi wasn't broken, but we want to create another system that we have some control over, and so
exactly.
Yep.
I would say the meta was supposed to be like before, like I think this is what people were chanting. Before it was fair mints, now it's all about airdrops. Like if airdrops never existed before that, you know what I mean? So are we reinventing the wheel for airdrops? Like that's stupid. We're going backwards. We're not going forward, right? And that was one of Runes' like biggest feature was airdrops. But to reinvent the wheel for airdrops, right? I mean, like if you look at the SatVB today at 5, nobody really gives a fuck as much. Clearly, right? We'll still be at 200. But what I mean is this. What we did with the transfer inscription is we made it like how Runes is. You send it, you want to send tokens, boom, sent in that one block. That's it, it's sent. Done. Good. And I wish I could have showed you guys here, but my computer is acting up. If you want to send tokens from one wall to the next, you choose a token, you choose how much, you press send, our system puts a transfer inscription with the token balance in the same mining block, and then sent. So we called it chaining aggregated mechanism, right? So it chains these two inscriptions together, the transfer inscription, the token balance inscription, and it's sent in the same block. So if others can't figure this out, and me being just a enthusiast there in the space and a supporter was able to do it with, this was my first building background or developing background in terms of like building something. I don't think people are either not trying hard enough or they know of it, but they just don't want to mention it. So that is out the window. I don't want to hear this debate about transfer inscriptions being the problem. And when you look at, I think like one of the talking points for Runes was, with Runes, you don't need transfer inscription. So this is going to clear the mempool. And on the surface, that makes a lot of sense and logic. But if you look at how the mempool, when it was getting to 500, 600 SatVB, it wasn't because of transfer inscriptions. It was because there was a new hot mint taking place. So people were rushing to their computers, to the nearest, most friendliest inscription tool to send their Bitcoin to get into these mints. So it did have transfer inscriptions involved into that in that place. And once you get your tokens, you want to list, okay, yeah, make a transfer inscription. But that's when the mempool already came down. So that was another misleading point for people who fell victim to that. And sadly lost a lot of Bitcoin with runes. That's just what it is. So it didn't fix anything. And the point about transfer inscription is not true, right? It's not true. So
I think it's actually worked in my favor in trading some, because a lot of people find it a nuisance, or they don't. Some people even don't know how to do it. I mean, they'll say, "Yeah, I bought this, but they didn't even know how." So it keeps the because they're kind of listing it like NFTs. It kind of keeps the floors thin, and you're able to use that to your advantage. It's again, you work with what you have, and you try to find creative ways to utilize that. But again, I don't see it as it's not a big deal to me, especially if you're dealing. I mean, if you're trading pennies, if you're trading $10 here and there, sure, transfer inscriptions are a big deal. But if you're trading tens of thousands of dollars, it's not a big deal at all. But
exactly. So that's a transfer inscription over there. Not much of a problem. It could be easily solved. It doesn't clog up the mempool. That's not the mempool. It's the the FOMO. So I feel as though all of that, that's all wishy-washy talk. Now let's talk about things when it comes to Fractal Bitcoin. Now, and actually before we get to Fractal Bitcoin, well, it's kind of part of this. We had a viewer in Twitter here in our Twitter chat, right? We got about just over 400 people in Twitter right now, and this is coming from XEMade. Fractal is bullish for runes as well as BRC20s. He's absolutely right there. But somebody brought up, I forget who it was, it's somewhere in the history, I think it was doggotothemoon.com, that dot swap already exists. And this is true. Dot swap does exist, right? And that's on L1. But the problem with dot swap is, right, when you say, oh, there's no liquidity pools on Bitcoin, you may point to dot swap, right? The problem with them is they fixed half of the problem. They got the liquidity pools. They don't got the cheap transactions. They don't got the faster blocks. Again, if we really want to transform trading tokens on Bitcoin, which I'm all for, whether that's runes, whether that's BRC20 2.0, whether that's Fractal, whatever it is, I'm all for. Right. But I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you something is better than the other when it isn't. But if we really want to fix that, we need to allow the faster blocks, the cheaper transactions, and liquidity pools. We need to nail all three of those things. We can't have one, we can't have the other, we can't have some. It's going to be half-baked to really have these Solana guys, these Ethereum guys, these base guys come here and not feel inconvenient, right? They need to feel right at home here. And it involves all of those three different variables, in my humbled opinion. So I feel dot swap, and I love that they're making this happen.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But I feel like they're still missing some components, which is, the fast block confirmations and also cheap fees. So I'll say that. Which brings us to Fractal. Okay? Now, Fractal, if you look at Fractal Bitcoin, I believe, and somebody in the chat's asking us here, or they commented that how they're not too familiar with it. So let me try to enlighten you a bit. Fractal, why I like it, it's coming from the originals. That's very important. Unisat. The people who understand this market the most, the people who built out the infrastructure from the beginning here the most, right? Who made the first wallet to support BRC20 tokens, along with, let's not forget the people over at, what's their name again, bro? Ordinal's wallet? Was it that?
Oh, yeah. Was that Jack? Jack Luz?
No, Jack did ordswap.io. But
right.
I think it's called Ordinal's wallet. Those guys were...
Ordinal's wallet is one. Yeah, they're out.
They were there too. They were there too. Right? They were the first, Unisat, when I say they were the first to risk their capital on something brand new and uncool at the time, which was tokens on Bitcoin. So for all of those reasons, that's number one, a part of that first point, why I love Fractal. Another reason is it's actually fixing the underlying problem, which is DeFi trading, which is faster block confirmations and cheaper fees. They're also using...
too.
What's that?
That's proof of work, too.
That's what I was about to get at. So they're also using the Bitcoin Core Code, SHA-256, and everything that is relevant and compatible with Ordinals, BRC20s, and even runes. So when you look at, I'll say competitors for now, like Magic Eden, who is trying to wipe out an industry, not supporting BRC20 tokens, right? That's literally what they're doing here. Unisat and the other guys aren't playing that dirty game. In my eyes, this is how I see it. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is how I see it. They're adding support for runes, okay, and BRCs. So they're here to actually make the space better. Also, I love that there's not no big influencers talking about it. That means there's not a underbelly to what meets the eye here. Normally, if huge influencers talking about it, they got something bigger going on than what meets the eye. Okay, believe you me. It's organically growing out, just like how BRC20s was organically growing out. So that's a lot of things I said there, and that's the reason why I'm pretty much bullish on this, right? So, yeah, I think trading here, it's going to be great, and if everything works out to be the way they explain it to us in their documentations and in their tweets, I believe this is going to be an absolute home run. Now, this is a lot of ifs here, I'll admit, in the end, what I'm about to say. I predicted back in 2021 that the bull run will start at the end of 2024. There's no way I'm going to, come off of that now when we're almost there. But if the market shapes up and it turns green and things are going up, valuations going up, the overall market cap's going up, and this thing launches during a bullish time, that's going to bode even better for it, right? And obviously you could bridge your tokens from L1 over there and do a bunch of other stuff. Uniworlds is an app over there that's like a metaverse. And I'm sure we'll see some more projects launching on Fractal. So I'd love to hear from you, Domo. Domo Ducks.
Yeah, it's cool. The Fractal Bitcoin team, man, it seems like the tech that they're coming up with is just completely paradigm shifting. It's not, they call it a recursive blockchain computing system. They're using the ordinals protocol to create recursive code. I mean, it's very, very complex, very intricate. And even I mentioned him earlier, Bob Bodley. He was even having a little bit of trouble wrapping his mind around it. It's a unique solution that I don't think anyone else has really considered. Again, like you said, they've been around from the beginning. I remember Lorenzo talking and saying, he didn't actually quite understand the merit. It took him about a month or two to understand the merits of BRC20s. Right, the way that they're designed, the simplicity of the design, certain things about it. And so they've been mulling this stuff over in their minds for, over about a year now. And this is their solution to, they say that, I don't have the literature in front of me, but they can essentially recursively expand the processing capacity of Bitcoin, infinitely, as much as they. And so, I don't think that anyone else, no offense to anyone who's building, I think it's amazing. I think we all win when we're all out there working on solutions and so forth. But yeah, extremely bullish on the Fractal team is doing. They're going to have it's proof of work. They're going to have a Fractal token. It hasn't been officially released, but my understanding is that it's 210 million supply. And it will be mined via proof of work, just like Bitcoin. They're going to have a halving. I believe they're expecting the first halving to take place in 1.5 years, and for 50% of the supply to be mined within 2 years. So it's going to be a huge opportunity for those who set up nodes and who get in early. And super bullish on it. And I plan to be building on it. Again, we're moving our liquidity pool, second largest TVL on Unisat swap,
the Fractal
over to. Yep.
Nice. Look at that.
I'm talking with the team. Yeah, go ahead. No, just talking with the team right now and working out the details. But yeah.
Guys, check out Domo Ducks. Give him a follow. The guy actually knows what he's talking about, and I value his opinion, and I think it's worth your attention. Go check him out. Give him a follow on Twitter. I think a lot of people are asking about information for Fractal Bitcoin. It is limited information in their defense, right? It truly is. But I like that about it, man. I just like that they're really focusing on bringing this to the market and just knocking it out of the park. They've been putting their heads down the entire time. I think people really first heard about Fractal about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month. But little did they know this was being in the makings for about over a year. Over a year they've been working on this. And I think for any real change, if you really expect any real meaningful change that's tangible, that has substance, it's going to take some time to build. And when you actually try to change the framework to fix the issues, but still try to restore the core values or language of Bitcoin, that's a powerful thing, right? And that's what they're trying to do here. So I think this is what we've been waiting for. I believe there's going to be mega opportunities here. Again, once everything works. And I think it's going to be good times again. I think this is the This is what people was expecting from runes. And at the matter of fact, right now, we have to admit, I believe, you could say dogs, you could say runes. It has terribly underperformed. Another point I want to make is, right, and we have to state this, when BRC20s came out, this was last year when Bitcoin was at $26,000. We're in the midst of a bear market rather, okay? We didn't have support from the biggest influencers like Leonidas and others, okay? We didn't have the biggest marketplaces like Magic Eden supporting the standard. I don't want to say us, but supporting the standard. We didn't even have wallets, we didn't have marketplaces, none of that shit. But yet it thrived, yet it organically grew, yet it blew up. Now, when you look at the opposite end of that spectrum or that equation, which is runes, it's quite the opposite. It had all the support from all the biggest influencers in the space. It had all of the infrastructure laid out. Everybody was waiting for it to go live. Everybody was well prepared, but yet it went bap, 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 bap. So something is terribly wrong there. And that is a direct consequence of, let's call it the tokens on Bitcoin God saying, you didn't fix the real shit. You didn't fix the real problem. You need to fix the real problem. You know what I mean? And that was like a byproduct of the inner capabilities that it presented, so to speak, and not fixing the real issues is the best way I could probably put that. We did have a question here from somebody somewhere in the past that was asking about BRC20 2.0 and Fractal Swap. And once again, there is limited information on this, but from my understanding with the Twitter space that Layer 1 Foundation did with Domo on BRC20 2.0, it's very special, BRC20 2.0. You have and I know you're very knowledgeable on this as well, Domo Ducks, but I know that how it has EVM code embedded within the inscription that could give it programmable functions similar to that on these EVM chains. So it gives it programmability to a certain degree. It also could allow liquidity pools on Layer 1. Okay? Now, Fractal Bitcoin does similar things, but I wouldn't say programmability like EVM in its own right. It could do programmable functions on Fractal. It's much faster. It is much cheaper, and it's scalable. Those are the differences when it comes to those two things. If you want to comment on that, the BRC20 2.0, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. I'm pulling up a Bob Bodley post. This is how counterparty, ordinal, stamps, BRC20, and runes all work. They are meta protocols built on top of Bitcoin. Use Bitcoin as your data availability layer, and then you offload compute to centralized off-chain indexers. So so runes works the same way as people were saying that the 2.0 mod upgrade is not going to be layer 1. It's layer 1. It's at the indexer level, just like runes is. So they're called layer 1 foundation for a reason. So this is going to allow layer 1 DeFi on Bitcoin. Right. Period. Right. So it's basically, if you're okay with the long block sizes, with the large, time domains, then this will allow you to trade layer 1 with smart contract capability directly at the indexer level. So it basically creates unlimited and again, the code that they're going to be using is common code that's understood, like with Ethereum and so forth. So it's not going to be an enormous amount of learning curve. So you'll be able to take smart contracts and just implement them directly layer 1 Bitcoin DeFi. So there's nothing like it. I hope and I believe that they're going to just knock it out of the park, and that's why they're taking even Unisat. Talking with Lorenzo. They've had all of their tooling ready for months. Months. They're just working on making sure that all of the indexers, that everything, that they're all in perfect agreement. Everything, because they don't want one tiny little mistake. Good things take time, and in the meantime, we're going to have Fractal Bitcoin to play with. And I'm just so bullish. I don't see there. I came to Bitcoin. I'm kind of a Cardano nerd and not popular.
Bro, don't say that. Don't say that. Me and you're going to beef right now. I'm joking.
Yeah, we'll talk about Solana. But like I like the technical. I came over here because I saw potential. From a technical aspect, right? We're just talking about code. We're talking about logic. And
No. You came here. You came over here because you're not into money.
Right. Dude, yeah, I'm so glad that I dropped some stuff in the bear market and did crazy gains. And in the middle of the bear market. No, you couldn't find that anywhere else. BRC20s provided that.
Bro,
so
listen, I'll tell you guys the truth about me. Like, yes, I make some winners and I get some losers too. I freaking rode on that hype of the metaverse with Board Ape Yacht Club, bought that fucking land and all this shit. And I remember, bro, yeah, I mean, like, fuck, bro, I'm a man. I could admit when I'm right and when I'm wrong. I'm not like others out there, right? I have humility. But what I would say is this. What happened was when I saw the whole ordinal movement in February and the rare sats and, BRC20s, bro, I fucking sold them. At the time, it was like 20 ETH. Something like that. 17 ETH, 20 ETH, right? Like, but it was at a loss. But I put that into Bitcoin. Bitcoin went up. Yeah. These things went up. Made fucking like, as somebody's talking about it right here, a Bit Dutch Crypto. Bro, I couldn't mint Ordi either, but I did mint Meme on Bitcoin and Pepe, BRC20. I'm still in the Bahamas, right? So what happened from there now was I took that funds off of fucking, these other side land and these, things, and then I put it into the whole Bitcoin. But I bought a Bitcoin. One of them was actually equates to one Bitcoin. Is what it was at the time, right? That's what the prices worked out to be. And then I invested into these BRCs and they blew up. So it turned out to be a right move, right? So I feel you about when you talk about the Cardano and all these things.
Yeah, I sold in the red, like way in the red, and moved it into BRC20s and did extremely well. So yeah, I don't know of any other place in the middle of a bear market that offered an opportunity like that. And the chart, you look at the chart. I mean, again, it did a perfect 5-wave move up to just under 100, and it's just consolidating. It's not dumping. It's just consolidating and just I've done TA for years, and there are a number of people that I highly respect, and they're extremely bullish on it. So the chart looks great. Yeah. Looks a lot different than dog, and so I think there's a lot of potential, a lot of building. They say there's no building going on. Well, they're just doing it slowly, and they're doing it right.
Exactly. I want to ask you a quick question from one of our viewers on YouTube. But Mega Arab asks what about 5 bytes as well, a 5 ticker BRC20? I mean, I know Pizza was launched as a 5 byte ticker. Not too sure where that's going, because Fractal, it's like its own little ticker there, right? It's not about 5 byte, but maybe that's a BRC20 2.0 thing, right? I don't know. I mean, that's that kind of like unclear for me too. But the 5 tickers are there. I don't know if you have any information on this, Domodux.
Right. Yeah. Layer 1 Foundation. The logic behind that was to expand the possibilities of. I can't remember the wording, but it's basically where you don't have any confusion between one asset and another. It allows for it allows for because a lot of these things were minted in 4-byte tickers, and it allows for people to get in, and they also added the ability to where the person who issues the asset is able to mint out. They added other technical aspects to it as well, where you can mint out a certain amount at a time and so forth. But what Unisat did, they spent probably close to $2 million. I don't know if you trace that at all. They spent over $1 million, I think, for sure. Basically minting and distributing pizza. Now, I think the 5-byte tickers, they're also working on burning mechanisms over at Layer 1 Foundation, where you can burn BRC20s directly at the UTXO level instead of sending it to Satoshi or something like that. Yeah. So they have other things they're working on. The 5-byte, it wasn't a big, huge upgrade. It was just kind of, they saw some potential for doing it, and so they added that. But even though you have I think your first 5-byte is BRC20, and then pizza's like number 3 or 4 or something, and you have some of them are starting to prepare. It looks like something's happening with Party, Party. Right, the 4-byte tickers were the first, so I'm more focused on what's going on there, especially the early ones. But I think the early 5 bytes will do very well. I'm not sure what Unisat's intents are. If you go on their Discord, they just keep saying, well, it was just a gift, but I'm sure they do have something up their sleeve with it, but
absolutely,
it's all speculation.
Yeah, and since we got some more viewers here, we got about 578 people watching us right now on Twitter. I just wanted to say, in regards to the transfer inscription with BRC20s, It's actually a very similar problem with runes when you have to chop up your UTXOs. It's another unnecessary step to actually get tokens out or to list them, right, to that particular amount that you want. If you own, like, say, 10,000 tokens in one batch of runes and it's worth freaking, like, I don't know, like, whatever, like over 100k, chances are you're not going to get much buys for that. So you got to chop that up in increments to actually sell it, which is pretty much a transfer inscription, right? In my humble, because it's another step in order to list or to sell or to whatever. So for me, that's their version of a transfer inscription. That's my, rebuttal to that.
Yeah, basically what they resolved is peer-to-peer transfers. You can send without, you can send without cutting it up. You can send directly from the wallet. Say, I have 100,000 dog and I want to send you 1,000. I can do it directly from my wallet. I mean, that's about the only thing that they solved at this point. But
here's the thing. What you just mentioned there is this. That's exactly what we did for BRC20s, right? To circumvent the transfer inscription into the CM block to alleviate the ball ache of creating one, right? To receive that, then issue your tokens. So what Magic Eden did was the same thing. They made the user experience easier for you with runes, but that is a design flaw with the rune standard itself. But Magic Eden was able to make it a little bit easier for you. That's what's happening there. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what's just like how they're a platform for like Inscribe. Well, I don't know if I'm pretty sure they Inscribe, but Marketplace. We are a platform for inscribing. So we realize, hey, if I'm a user, I wouldn't want to wait for a transfer inscription. Let's see if we could automate, and it's automated. We could automate that for them to make it easier. So that's literally what Magic Eden is doing there. That has nothing to do with the token standard. That was a design flaw that they made easier for people to have a better experience through their own developing to a certain degree.
Yeah, and it barely affects trading at all. Again, it's more of a peer-to-peer type of upgrade, which, I don't know. Not many people are just peer-to-peering tons of tokens to each other.
100%, man. I mean, look, for the people now joining, we got close to 600. I'll say this, right? What we discussed over here was various different questions, okay? So right here, we spoke about which is better. I think the real question should be, did runes actually make a difference, not if it's better? And, right now, it didn't really make much of a difference. That's just the honest to God truth. It really didn't. No DeFi trading. Nobody's really interested in minting right now. The SAT VB is at an all-time low. You could have never dreamed of getting a 4 SAT VB when BRC20s was live, okay? Then we could discuss this. Devs on runes, I think that's just a hot thing right now. Maybe runes today, maybe Fractal Bitcoin tomorrow. Let's see what happens. Runes volume, again, I talked about the mempool. There's no volume, especially when most of the volume literally goes to one token, which is dog. That is atrocious. If it really had volume, you already would be listed on Binance. Clearly, the volume is not to Binance's standards just yet. Maybe that will change, but as of now, no. When you're also talking about, say, this first 3 months of comparing runes to BRCs, if you're talking about token price performance, it's incomparable. We're celebrating 200, 300, 400x right now. Already did something stupid like over 5,000x within the first couple of months from the mint price. So you can't really be comparing things that, if you go to Magic Eden, click on the runes 30-day chart, things are down 80%, 54%. Yes, we had retraces as well, but that came well after mega gains was made. Okay, and then we got our last little thing here. We were discussing the transfer inscription that could easily be fixed, kind of like how Magic Eden tries to address the UTXOs, chopping that up for you. We were able to do that as well, so that's non-debatable there. And everybody is looking forward to Fractal Bitcoin, which I believe is the next big thing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us, 612 of y'all on Twitter and on YouTube. We will be rolling on more content when it comes to Fractal Bitcoin, especially. If you thought Runes was going to give you them mega gains, that 1000x shit, that 100x shit, I'm not saying Fractal Bitcoin is going to do that, but what I'm saying is it's a great possibility there, much more than, what you were expecting on Runes. That's all I'm saying. It truly addresses the real problems. I think China is going to come to the game, something that Runes could never say they had. BRC20s had that. It's from a Chinese team, from a recognized team, from the originators, and it demands your attention if you like making money, in my humble opinion. Doma Ducks, you want to say anything before we go?
You nailed it, man. Get a node and mine some Fractal if you can.
There we go.
I think that's about the best advice I can give.
You can actually mine on 2 chains at the same time with the cadence mining of Fractal. So you know what, ladies and gentlemen? They ain't really much have to say other than, till the next video, you're on your own.